Coming up on Tech News Today, Apple buys all of Twitter's data, sort of. Huawei wants out of the United States, and Spotify wants to make friends with musicians. All that and more coming up.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust. This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Tuesday, December 3rd, 2013. Tech News Today is brought to you by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform that makes it fast and easy to create your own professional website or online portfolio. For a free 2-week trial and 10% off, go to squarespace.com and use offer code TNT12. And by Gazelle, the fast and simple way to sell your used gadgets. Find out what your used iPhone, iPad, and other Apple products are worth at Gazelle.com. And by RingCentral. We do everything in the cloud. That's why we love our cloud-based phone system by RingCentral. Zero startup costs, and RingCentral is $20 a month per user. Try it now with a 30-day risk-free trial. Buy one desk phone, get a second phone free, up to 20 phones. Call 800-543-9980 or visit ringcentral.com and use our promo code TWIT. Welcome to Tech News Today. I'm Tom Merritt.
I'm Sarah Lane.
I'm Maya Zakhtar.
I'm Jason Howell.
And this is the show that wraps all of the tech news in the world into our loving embrace, shoves it through a filter, looks at what you guys are interested in, and then puts out the top 10 stories of the day in the news feeds. Apple acquired Topsy Labs, one of the few companies with full access to the Twitter fire hose of data. Among other things, Topsy has an archive of every Twitter post since launch in 2006. The Wall Street Journal reports Apple paid more than $200 million. Apple could use Topsy's real-time data for its radio service, App Store, or iAds, among other things.
Not to be confused with IaaS.
I'm already confused. It's okay.
This might confuse you more. Google's announced the general availability of the Google Compute Engine, the cloud computing platform it launched in 2012, developed on top of the infrastructure it manages to run its own search engine and other properties. As part of the launch, Google also announced expanded support for new OSs, a 10% drop in pricing for standard instances, new 16-core instances for applications that need a lot of computation power, and a new logo to upgrade its branding.
It's a snazzy logo. Huawei CEO Ren Zhengfei told Les Echos he wants the company to pull out of the U.S. market. Huawei CEO has a past association with the People's Liberation Army, which has hindered the company from making strides in the U.S. telecom sector. Ren says that if the company is getting in the way of U.S.-China relations, quote, it's not worth it, and Huawei will leave the U.S. market to not stay in the middle.
Nobody likes it in the middle. Ask Moni. Who's winning the console war? Well, it depends on what day it is and who you ask. The PS4 sold 1 million, then the Xbox sold 1 million. But wait, the Xbox launched in more countries than the PS4. Then the PS4 broke records in the UK, but InfoScout projected Xbox One sold more on Black Friday. And then today, Sony announced it has sold 2.1 million PS4s as of December 1st. Expect the next press release to come from Microsoft. Also, Nintendo exists.
No.
Oh, Spotify has a bit of a reputation with some artists as being not good enough compensation-wise. You've heard them complain about it. In response, the company has launched a new website, Spotify Artists, designed to explain how much musicians could be paid if they decide to stream their music. Spotify uses real-world anonymized examples to detail how it calculates royalties, which have passed the 500 million mark this year. Two new partners, Next Big Sound's Artist Analytics Dashboard and Topspin, process Spotify's music metrics and help artists decide when might be the best time to start a new tour or a new promotional campaign.
Let's see who's using the patent hammer to nail another company. Oh, look, it's Nokia. Nokia just won an injunction against HTC for patent infringement. Now, starting on December 6th, the HTC One Mini will not be sold in the UK. The HTC One is also affected, but it is under a delayed injunction, so HTC has a chance to appeal. Judge Richard Arnold explained that stopping sales of the HTC One could cause considerable damage.
Elon Gale put one over on most of us, including myself, revealing yesterday on Twitter that there was no Diane, and his account of a dispute with the angry air traveler was for entertainment purposes only. His post read, "Here is Diana sitting in a chair. and showed a picture of an empty chair. He followed that up by writing, "Whoops, meant Diane. Great time for a typo." Rumors about Diane's identity had started to include allegations that she suffered from late-stage lung cancer before Gail finally put the hoax to rest.
Oh, I love stories about things that didn't really happen. So fun. Netflix's newest show aimed at kids, Turbo Fast, debuts on Christmas Eve, but kids will only be able to watch the first 5 episodes of the series rather than the whole season. Netflix isn't committing to a release schedule, but says there will be additional all-new episodes premiering throughout the year. So, will Netflix end up changing a release strategy for non-animated content too? Perhaps the Amazon model of releasing just a handful of episodes of shows like Alpha House when they debut, then rolling out new episodes every week is looking more attractive.
Hey, everybody. Remember ACTA, the anti-counterfeiting trade agreement?
Sort
Well,
of.
you probably thought it was dead after the EU rejected it, but Canada does not think it's quite so dead. The copyright treaty required participating countries to change their intellectual property laws, and a bill to comply was introduced to the Canadian Parliament in March, but was never considered. But the bill was reintroduced in late October under the code name C8, and without any public discussion, it seems to be moving forward anyway.
Rebranding is genius. Fortune.com published a website screenshot showing a China Mobile subsidiary taking pre-orders for the Apple iPhone. Now, this fueled speculation that the iPhone was finally headed to the world's largest mobile carrier, China Mobile. The pre-order page was then taken down and replaced by a message saying pre-orders would resume later. A Chinese mobile spokesperson told CNN that there is no deal with Apple yet.
This episode of Tech News Today is brought to you by Squarespace.com, the all-in-one platform that makes it easy to create your own professional website or online portfolio or bookstore or book club or music site like Jason Howell. They're constantly improving their platform with new features, new designs, and even better support. Those beautiful designs are what attracts me because I am not good at design. I may be good at other things, but I am not good at design. But Squarespace is good at design, and they will make your space look like it was you spend millions of dollars on a designer. It's easy to use. It's incredibly easy to use. And they have a support team helping you out 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to make it even easier. Starts at just $8 a month, including a free domain name if you sign up for a year. And another one of my favorite things is the mobile readiness. Every design automatically includes that mobile experience that matches the overall style of your website. So your content looks great on every device every time. Hosting's included too. Squarespace takes care of the hosting, so you don't have to. Start a free 2-week trial with no credit card required. Start building your website. When you decide to sign up for Squarespace, make sure to use the offer code TNT12 to get 10% off and to show your support for Tech News Today. Squarespace has been supporting Tech News Today. We thank them for that. We thank you for supporting us by going and trying Squarespace. Everything you need to create an exceptional website. All right, joining us now around the old round table to discuss the stories of the day is Ewan Rankin, editor of the British Tech Network. I appear on the big show there every so often, and it's always a pleasure. How's it going, Ewan?
I'm all right, mate. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for staying. It's not too late for you, is it? It's just evening time.
No, it's perfect timing.
Okay, good. Good.
You're a clock, as they say.
We're not keeping you out of the pub. So
No, it's only 6 o'clock at night, so it's fine.
Okay, good. Let's start off talking about Topsy. That seemed to take at least the social networking world by storm yesterday, Ayaz.
Congratulations on not saying topsy-turvy. The Wall Street Journal was reporting, as you mentioned.
Now we did.
I had to do it.
I hate it when that happens.
Okay, anyway, so as you mentioned in the news piece, the Journal reported that Apple bought social analytics firm Topsy for more than $200 million. The New York Times said that Apple confirmed the acquisition, so it's a real done deal here. And Topsy, if you're not familiar with them, they allow customers to tap into a store of over 400 billion tweets that start from 2006 onward, so pretty much the entirety of Twitter. It's a 6-year-old company. It's also worked with government agencies in the past. It can analyze billions of tweets. It helps emergency management workers monitor where accidents may have been, where they've occurred, and where supplies have been delivered. On top of that, Topsy says that it can pinpoint the country or origin of about 95% of tweets based on physical landmarks or local events. And so there's a whole bunch of guessing going on for what Topsy will end up doing at Apple. TechCrunch is guessing that it might work with just the engineers. It's an acqui-hire here because Apple has a pretty good relationship with Twitter in general. The Journal is also reporting, Wall Street Journal's guessing that iTunes Radio might get some nice analytics here with iAd, the advertising platform, not to be confused with myself, Ayaz. Again, TechCrunch also guessed Siri. Some folks are saying iTunes. So it's really it's anyone's best guess. Ewan, what's your best guess for what Topsy's technology is going to end up at Apple?
The first time this kind of reared up, I thought of the failure of Ping, and I just wondered what Apple were thinking they were going to get from Ping that they didn't get, that Topsy might provide them with, in terms of what people are listening to rather than what they're buying, because they get the analytic of what they're buying from the iTunes store. So maybe there's a kind of, you know, where should we put our advertising basket in the front end of iTunes that would come from it? And also the fire hose, I think, is a big thing, because isn't that, am I right in saying that the location element of the fire hose is the big part, because it will tell you what's going on where almost instantly, and that kind of thing for Siri would be huge.
You know,
I look at. Go ahead, Sarah.
Well, I was going to say, I've actually been using Topsy ever since it opened up tweets, not only your own tweets, but other people's tweets from the beginning of time, because that's really, really helpful. Yes, you can download a file from Twitter. They're not keeping the data from us, but that's not easily searchable in, you know, with a variety of parameters. If you say, I want to, you know, search for tweets from, you know, a particular person or particular time frame or both, it's pretty easy to unearth tweets that, you know, there's stuff where I'm like, I think that there was something that was said or a link that I shared. I've actually found Topsy to be extremely helpful, and I thought it was just a matter of time before Twitter bought them. So the fact that Apple did it was like, what? Apple? Why? But again, maybe this has a lot less to do with Twitter and more to do with how you would be able to use something like Topsy's technology to search within, like iTunes purchases or history or that sort of thing.
I think that's where it's going, definitely, is Apple bought this company because they want the technology and engineering and algorithms that are used to mine a huge pile of data like the Twitter fire hose. And Apple wants to do that for lots of things, for mapping, for iTunes. Yes, they already have that ability, but they want to make it better. And I would guess that that's the main reason that they're going after Topsy. The Twitter fire hose is almost problematic here. I would expect Apple to either cancel that account and say, no, we'll no longer be providing the Topsy service, or possibly spin it back out. I wonder, I was talking with a guy on Twitter who works in the social media industry, works in the advertising industry, and he was like, he thinks that there is an agreement in the license that says if you subscribe to the fire hose of Twitter data, you have to be a reseller of it. And I know Apple would not want to be in the business of reselling access to the Twitter fire hose of data the way Topsy has been.
Yeah, and Apple's picked up a bunch of companies this year. HopStop, which is for mapping, Matcha, which is that media discovery app, PrimeSense, we just mentioned, I think it was last week, was it? Motion sensing technology that's in the original Connect, and now Topsy. If this kind of seems like all of these things might have a pattern to me, this seems like it'd be really intelligent, something like Siri, if you have this idea of knowing the user better. Because once you hook up your Twitter account with an iOS device, if it can actually search all the stuff you've ever looked at on Twitter or mentioned on Twitter, it has a better profile of you, because these are the things you're actually actively writing about versus, oh, I've liked it on Facebook or I favorited something. But this is data that you can analyze where you can have a better idea of the user and what products, music, videos, whatever, anything Apple sells you through its apps, its number of app stores could be really personalized if they get this right. But I don't know if we're going to see it as its own independent product. It's going to have to be baked into something that already exists.
Baked Apple. Couldn't resist. All right, let's talk about Huawei. CEO Reng Zhengfei, as you heard in the news fuse, told a French publication, Les Echos, last week, actually, November 26th, that he wants the telecom equipment manufacturer to pull out of the U.S. market. That interview was translated into English today by Foreign Policy magazine. Here's what he said, translated into English. If Huawei gets in the middle of U.S.-China relations, it's not worth it. Therefore, we have decided to exit the U.S. market and not stay in the middle. The controversy, of course, is that Ren was a military technologist for the People's Liberation Army. He is no longer, or at least he says he is no longer, but some people don't believe that. The United States White House conducted a review October 2012 and found no evidence that Huawei spied on the U.S., but they damned the company anyway, saying that their networking gear is riddled with security holes, and a lot of independent security experts have agreed with that. They say Cisco is more secure. Huawei is the third smartphone vendor in the world after Samsung and Apple. But this story is really about networking gear. It's about the back-end stuff. When that White House review was conducted, the NSA revelations from Edward Snowden hadn't come out. Now we have the United States having a reputation of backdoors and having their government hack into security. You're in the UK. Who do you trust more, Huawei or Cisco?
Well, neither. I mean, I think it's difficult to look at any of the stories that you've got around terrorism /security/spying and see any of them in any kind of real context in the way that the media wants to portray them. And in the case of Huawei, they make a huge amount of stuff over here. I mean, I use 3 Networks power dongle, which is, my MiFi thing. It's great. Gets me online. It's got good speeds. Fantastic. But there's no suggestion from anything that I've seen that there's any Chinese companies that are trading globally that are doing anything wrong at all on the terrorist come spying front. And I think that the US have got to be careful that they don't see so many witches at the door that they end up being a nation that's untradeable in terms of the global economy. For what they're getting from this, as Huawei says there, if we're really going to get pummeled for it, we're going to walk away. And there's a lot of companies, I think, are getting prepared to walk away from the US if they keep getting too much abuse. Entry into the US is difficult if you're not Brazilian.
Well, and so, Huawei is so successful, particularly in its home country, right? I wonder how much this has to do with Huawei just saying, bottom line, we don't really need the U.S. This is a nuisance more than anything. We don't really care if you think we're spies or not. We're just going to pull out of the market because maybe the R&D money that would need to go into it just simply isn't worth it for us.
That sounds more like, you didn't dump me, I dumped you. It's like, I don't know. I think the U.S. and Huawei, they've had enough of a conflict that, there's a certain point where the U.S. basically shut out Huawei from a lot of the government contracts. You can't do any business with them. That's the kind of stuff they want to provide. And at some point, they have to say something publicly. We've seen problems with, at least the reported problems with Lenovo trying to buy BlackBerry in Canada, but Ottawa wouldn't allow it to happen. There's reports back in November about this. So it seems like because of national security concerns, that was the reason why it didn't happen. So this idea that any Chinese company seems to be a national security threat when the U.S. has all of this, what's been seen as spying, it seems a little bit strange that's going on, although at least in the U.S., the claim is that, well, these are U.S. companies and they're actively arguing against the government publicly anyway. So it looks to be a lot less troublesome, I guess, than when it comes to Chinese companies and the way they may or may not be controlled by their government.
Well, but what about Lenovo? Lenovo is a Chinese company. They're doing quite well in the United States. And what about Xiaomi? They just hired Hugo Barra, remember, not too many months ago, to do international expansion. And he's a U.S. Or was a U.S. employee of Google. So they're going to be coming into this country. Is it true, or is it just a shortcut to say that no Chinese company can succeed in the United States?
I think there's a lot of companies that are going to struggle to succeed in the United States if there's an introverted approach to information flow, which there certainly is. And as you say, there, as the NSA thing has done the US no favours from the external community looking inwards. And then if they're going to start throwing up barriers to foreign input, foreign investment, foreign trade, then there's only a downward spiral that's going to affect from that, surely.
Yeah, there's the oddball thing of like a lot of American companies outsourcing manufacturing to China, so things get brought in. Unless there's quality control, should spying be worried about? Who knows? When it comes to that, I mean, a lot of this can just boil down to politics as well. China obviously loans the United States lots and lots of money. If this is some kind of a bargaining chip to change, I don't know, loan terms maybe, but Huawei can just simply go, look, we don't need you guys. We're not going to be here. We can serve the rest of the world just fine. So maybe the U.S. has to buckle in some other ways, but this seems it's larger than just electronics and telecommunications.
All right, let's back off the world stage. Well, actually, this is a stage, but it's a stage for musicians on Spotify. I guess it's a world stage because there could be world music on it too. But Spotify's trying to make nice with the music's peoples, is what I'm trying to say.
Yes, you are. So Spotify launched Spotify for Artists, which is an analytics tool. Now, what it does, it's kind of like Google Analytics, but for musicians. It's real-time dashboard, shows you how often an artist's music is being listened to, which songs are the most popular. It's got some other demographical stuff, so if you want to know how young somebody is, their gender, the location, it'll give the artist that information as well. They're also trying to explain why Spotify is good for artists. They're explaining that Spotify pays more than 2 times more money than ad-supported video services like YouTube. and significantly more than online and terrestrial radio services. So they're trying to explain to artists, hey, come here. But Ewan, do you think this tool is going to entice artists to bring their music to Spotify over bringing it to somewhere like YouTube? Because they do have 24 million users. They're trying to get to 40, but this is very transparent.
First of all, I was gobsmacked at the lack of users they seem to have. How they're generating quite as much income as they're talking about in payment of royalties.
Oh, excuse me, that was paying. Sorry, I meant 24 million paying subscribers and 40 million is what the goal is.
Yeah, exactly. I found that very difficult. That's their source of income other than the advertising side of it. But I mean, there's a lot to do with music that I've really switched off from. Because, it's artists saying, oh, I want to be in control. I want to know how much I'm supposed to get. You're all stealing our money. You're all stealing our songs on news groups and torrents. And I'm just, do you know what? I just buy it on iTunes and then, I play it in my car and that's that. And now I can actually get iTunes to talk to my Windows phone. Why am I bothered about Spotify? Plus also, don't forget, I get Nokia music free of charge. Which I think they're in a loss-leading model there. They've kind of gone from the, we want to get subscribers, we want to make income, but actually that suspension of the business model or sustaining of the business model, I think will evade them in the end. I can see Spotify not being around in 5 years if they're not careful.
Well, I certainly want it to be, and I don't actually use Spotify, but I do use a competitor, RDO. They're basically the exact same model. I love streaming music. As a consumer, it's great because I get to listen to every Tuesday, the new albums come out. I listen to tons of stuff once. There will be a few artists maybe per month that I go like, I love this guy, Danny Brown. This is awesome. I just discovered him because I didn't have to go buy anything. It's just part of my subscription model. So I end up consuming a ton of music. As a consumer, it's great. If Spotify can convince artists, listen, if more people just understand that this is a great model, everybody wins. Yes, you get a smaller amount per stream, but collectively, if we can move into this direction, consumers will be happier and you as an artist will be more compensated because of the sheer number of it. That's great. You and I'm with you. RDO itself, as a Spotify competitor, is struggling. Just got a new CEO, laid off a bunch of people. Spotify is pretty big, but even in Europe, it's bigger than in the US. And there's still that kind of like, will it all work? Even as a happy consumer, I'm not convinced that I'll have this kind of access in another 5 years.
Well, I think the music industry needs to uncover an even worse situation than Spotify. There's a music service out there that plays any music they want. They don't even have to strike a deal. They give their service away absolutely free. They pay nothing to the artists for the performance of that music, and they will pay the composers, but the composers get fractions of cents per play, almost nothing, and that's called radio, and it's been going on since the 1950s. So this is a lot of propaganda that Spotify, unfortunately, is having to fight, that they are somehow underpaying people. If they only have 40 million users and they only have 20 million paying, they're barely making enough for those fractions of cents to pay off. But fractions of cents to composers of terrestrial radio, which has a huge listener base and still does, has been plenty. And the music industry has learned to live with the fact that they make no money for performance off of radio, and they're able to turn those performances into marketing for sales of albums, for concerts. And what Spotify is doing here, I think, is trying to lean into that, saying, hey, musicians, let's talk directly to you. Let's help you with what you need and what actually makes you money, because the album sales is not where you make your money. It's the concerts and the merchandising. And we can give you insights. We can give you data on that. I think that's really smart.
Yeah, I think what you're saying
UK
is...
does pay. Sorry, Jason.
No, well, I was just going to say, I think that's exactly right. The confusion here, I think, with these internet services that are doing this is that a lot of the long-term, artists that have been doing this for a long time see the music services as a replacement for the album purchase or something like that. When you compare it to something like radio, like you're saying, Tom, all it is more avenues for exposure for all of the other things that the musician does, and that has value. Musicians coming up now and learning how to navigate this world of producing music and releasing it on their own love services like this, because it's all about exposure. It's all about putting your music in all of the places that it can possibly be. It's upside down.
Like
that's
right here in
that.
front of my face, for instance, is Jason's. Don't put it everywhere you can possibly have it.
UK does pay royalty for radio performance, by the way.
Oh, you guys do? Okay. Yeah, I should have mentioned that when my example,
and it's still in radio
US.
because they can't afford it.
Yeah. All right, let's take a quick break and thank our other sponsor for today's show, Gazelle.com. You would like to make some money, I'm assuming, and you probably have an old gadget that you're wanting to get rid of. Maybe you want to sell it, and you're like, oh, it's such a hassle. It's not a hassle on Gazelle. You can have an offer on this within minutes. Before I'm done telling you about Gazelle, you can have an offer. If you go to Gazelle.com, it's easy enough. You can figure it out on your own, but you just put in the name of your device. You tell them the condition. They're going to check it, but they'll even pay for broken iPhones and iPads and get an offer. That offer is now good for 30 days. You can take your time sending it to them if you want. That might give you some time to switch to a new device. And then when they get it, they turn it around in a couple of days. They pay you by PayPal. They pay you by check. They'll pay you by Amazon gift certificate. In fact, you get a 5% bonus with an Amazon gift card if that's the way you want to get paid. Go to Gazelle.com right now. Get an offer for your old iPhone, your old iPad, your own Samsung Galaxy S2, your iPhone 5, your iPhone 4S. What's your iPhone worth? Take a minute. Go to Gazelle.com to find out. Do it now, though, because your iPhone may lose value the longer you wait. And we thank Gazelle for their support of Tech News Today. E-ink, the folks who make e-ink have been in trouble as everybody seems to be wanting to buy tablets that have LED or LCD screens on them. But there's a new display technology that makes e-ink's future a little brighter, Sarah.
That's correct. It makes it thinner and lighter, too.
That's right.
Future e-readers could be not just thinner, but lighter, more than a Kindle Paperwhite, for example, which is, touted as like, it's called the Paperwhite for a reason, because of new screen technology from e-ink known as FINA, F-I-N-A. I think it's FINA rather than FINA. It's a very thin glass substrate that would result in displays that measure less than 50% in both thickness and weight when compared to an equivalent glass-based thin film transistor, which are known as TFTs. So FINA could be ideal for big tablets, right? That where you need more screen size, but you don't want it to be this big clunky thing that nobody wants to carry around or doesn't seem very portable, that needs to be lightweight. In fact, it's already been, there have been models put together by Pocketbook CAD Reader. Pocketbook CAD Reader is actually the model that's been put together, which is a 13.3-inch device that's the first to use FINA. Tom, you and I were talking before the show, and you said it's not like you can go buy it anywhere necessarily. It's not listed at Best Buy anywhere. This is probably something that maybe large contracting corporations who have a business account might be able to order some of these. But it's a nice e-reader. You've got a 1 gigahertz processor, 2 megs of RAM. You've got 16 gigs of storage. It's basically designed for displaying drawings by AutoCAD. And, the Pocketbook says it's pretty much made to be used on construction sites, but this is not so much, this is going against the trend of thinner, lighter, smaller. Let's see how small it can get. So it's just like a little, piece of paper. This is like, well, there are certain instances where you need something where displays are made of e-ink and they kind of have to be bigger, but you certainly don't want them bulkier because people might need to be carrying them around, and you've got, you don't want it to be uncomfortable and you're on your feet. So Ewan, do you think that there is a market besides something very niche like a construction site, let's say, or people who are in the architecture world, where we want thinner but larger format e-readers?
I think it's not a niche market as much as you describe. I'm a commercial photographer, so I spend a lot of time on industrial sites photographing what's there and photographing what's not there and trying to put it in the picture so that people can see what it's going to look like afterwards. And one of the things that the industry struggles with massively is people carrying around a huge roll of drawings that they end up folding out to try and look where stuff is. And a huge e-ink tablet that they can carry around at sort of 13 to 17 inches would sell like hotcakes, absolutely sell like hotcakes. And it's a big market, it's a huge market. You're talking everything from the rail industry to physical construction to mechanical handling installation, the baggage installation. There is a massive market out there for it. I think it's an absolutely crucial device that's got to come, and the world of industry, as far as I see it, has gone tablet crazy. They are desperate to get everything onto a tablet. Control of supervision, function with interaction with other operators and so on. It's massive for them.
Well, not to mention being outside, you've got the glare issues. I mean, that's something that obviously the e-reader has always been better at. If you have something that's a little bit specific, you're running a specific program, you've got this thing you're carrying around with you. Tablet's not always the best answer.
But we've seen the larger scale tablets with the Kindle DX. It was supposed to be about mapping, cartography, all kinds of fancy stuff, because this would be a large scale device that you could have an e-ink display. Didn't do very well, very high price tag. I think that this kind of thing could be probably used in a lot of digital signage kind of things, maybe in a store where you want to have something pretty graphical and you can change them at just basically sending out an image to all of these things at once.
Isn't the clarity the key here, though, Az?
Yes, that's a big deal. So if we have high pixel density, that was the big thing for me with the Paperwhite. When they started increasing that, and there's rumors of a 300 ppi Paperwhite coming out next year, that's very intriguing because you get to have much more resolution. And if you're talking about plans, schematics, you want to be able to see things clear because you're talking about design here. Although the thing that keeps sticking out to me is thinner and lighter. This reminds me, this screams this could be on phones again. The Yahoo phone out there that has the e-ink on the back and you have the LCD on the front. If it's thinner and lighter and you can have two different devices, a second screen on your phone or a second screen even on your tablet, that could be where this ends up in mass. Maybe I bet you on a Samsung product, it'd be the Note Dual or something like that, and you'll have this e-ink on the back and beautiful AMOLED screen on the front.
All right, let's take a minute to talk about Dan Gooden's article over on Ars Technica about a claim from some researchers at Germany's Fraunhofer Institute for Communication, Information Processing, and Ergonomics, catchy name, guys, recently disclosing their findings in a paper in the Journal of Communications about jumping the air gap with malware. If that rings a bell, we talked about this when we talked about Dragos Rui's claims of bad BIOS, saying he had air-gapped machines, which meant they had no connection, wired or wireless, to anything else, but somehow malware was jumping from one machine to the other, and he suspected that it was through the speakers and microphones. Well, these researchers in their article describe, quote, how the complete concept of air gaps can be considered obsolete as commonly available laptops could communicate over their internal speakers and microphones and even form a covert acoustical mesh network. That's what Michael Hansbach wrote in an email to Ars Technica. Over this covert network, information could travel over multiple hops of infected nodes connecting completely isolated computing systems and networks to each other. We also propose some countermeasures. Now, they've demonstrated this on two Lenovo T400 laptops that were 19.7 meters apart. I guess that's as far as they could get them apart and make it work. It worked best with a modem developed for underwater communications, an adaptive communication system modem. And it only achieved at best a 20 bit per second, not mega, not the 20 bits per second of data. So it requires some sophistication. It might be able to track a keylogger, but or maybe some passwords or passcodes, but it's not going to send a lot of information. According to these guys, military, high security environments like nuclear labs really are the ones who need to watch out for this, though. And the countermeasures, besides the obvious of shutting off mic and speakers, would be to filter out high frequency ranges, which is what they usually use to make this work, or to store the audio input and output for analysis, or both. It's pretty crazy, though, to think that this could be developed, because as we know, technologies get easier to use and more widespread and higher bit rates as they go along. Ewan, does this worry you that you might have to be shutting off your speakers and mics someday?
I recall Matthew Broderick dialing into the big computer in war games using audio. I'm old enough.
Well, yeah, it was a good old audio modem, wasn't it? Yeah.
I used to have my Sinclair ZX Spectrum, and I used to have to put an audio tape in, and even when that was connected, it didn't bloody work. I think that the thing that I would raise as a question here is what's listening? Oh, there we go. That's what we need. What's listening? I've polled a couple of friends before I came on here and said, right, is there any applications out there that switch the audio system on and just listen to see if anything's coming in? And not one of them could name one application. So there's your first real falling point, is the fact that nothing's listening. The second one is if you sit a body in front of a computer, then because these are ultra high frequency, they're going to have low penetrative quality. So, just even the smallest barrier in between is going to completely distort what's going through. So the chances of it working are pretty slow there anyway. Your microphone's also attuned to your voice, so it's not tuned for ultrasonics. So the clarity of what it picks up at that range is going to be difficult. But here's the thing. Go back to my statement about what's listening. One of the biggest areas of development that you've got at the moment with Chrome is the use of JavaScript for pairing computers together via ultrasonics. There's a great, we did the piece on the bad BIOS thing a few weeks ago on the big show. And one of the things that I turned up when I was doing the kind of prep for that was, a guy called Smus. He's a chap who's written a program that's based in JavaScript called SonicNet.js, and he's looking at ways in which computers can interact and can become their own network using audio only. This is the Miles Dyson that we've got to send Sarah Connor back to beat the crap out of.
Yeah, exactly. Well, actually, if this were used for good, I'd be all for it, right? Like the idea of having a sonic mesh network. I'm all for mesh networks, to be honest, in lots of different ways. So like any technology, this can be exciting for the uses you could put it to for good things rather than just for bad. But it is something that conceivably could change the way we use our computers down the road.
Having your home theater kind of send internet to your Internet of Things devices, that kind of thing. That would be kind of interesting. But I think the big thing about this kind of story is that while it seems a little bit strange when it comes to laptops and things, I think it becomes a little bit more terrifying if you think about if this is adapted for cell phones, right? We're used to having these devices listening to us, saying, okay, Google already on a number of phones and Nexus devices, they have this built in. And we're very quick to give mic permissions to lots of applications because we want to be able to quickly talk to it. Or if it's a keyboard app even, lots of things. So while it might seem like, okay, laptop to laptop, that might not be so strange, the one device that people really don't want to rip out the mic and speaker on is their phone. So if this could be adapted, or if it was already adapted, that could be a future issue. But as it stands now, you made put some great holes in this for a technological point of view. It's just what other devices can this be adapted for, and when and if it's already out there now.
I will be selling small Faraday cases for iPhones and Samsung Galaxy S4s coming soon. For you.
Why?
Let's talk about Applebee's restaurants.
Yeah.
Why? Because, Sarah, tablets, that's why.
Yeah. Did you know that Applebee's is the largest casual dining? I didn't even know that was a category until this morning. Casual dining chain in the U.S.
That's code for stuff on the walls.
It's basically like, it's a step above fast food, but it's supposed to be, it's casual, it's cheap, it's, good for a group. You get in, you get out. Serves around 1 million guests per day.
Can you get an infection from casual dining?
Well,
eat safely.
If they drop the food on the floor, it's a little too casual, and then you get the
I thought it'd get
depends on the restaurant. Yeah.
You guys, I mean,
sorry.
My goodness. They have about 1,800 domestic Applebee's restaurants, a little bit more than that. Most of them, 99+%, are franchise owned. So, it's a big company. They've signed a deal with restaurant tablet hardware and software provider La Carte to bring about 100,000 tableside tablets to their restaurants. It'll start next year, 2014, and is expected to be in all stores by the end of next year. So about a year from now, all Applebee's restaurants should have tablets enabled at their seating. Now, it's not going to be the entire menu, at least at first. It'll be certain things like appetizers and drinks and this and that. But the idea is to eventually be able to order anything that you need at your table. And you might say, oh, is this kind of like the bank teller, right? Like Applebee's is eventually just not going to have any servers because everything will be ordered, and I don't know, they're going to come by via drone or something like that. The company says, well, actually, really what it does is it reduces overall table turn time because, again, you're not waiting to flag somebody down if servers are really, really busy. You're putting in your order, and it's a little bit more automated. And, of course, table turn time means that you have more people seated, which means you get more money, you get more tips. Transaction time is lessened for guests. And also, they say it kind of works a little bit like a taxi cab in New York, where you swipe your credit card and then it says, okay, what do you want the tip to be? 15% or 20% or maybe 25%? And they find that when given the option to provide, let's say, a 20% tip, most customers will just say, yeah, that sounds right, rather than have to think about, oh, actually, I want to pay a little bit less. Let me figure out how to make that happen on this onboard screen. So you end up getting more money. So, I mean, this all makes sense, right? This is a big company. They want to automate some stuff. They want to get a little bit more money and add to their bottom line. But what are we looking at in a few years if this whole tablet thing ends up working out really well for Applebee's? Do we get rid of servers? What do you think, Ewan?
I was just thinking, if this is like a taxi cab in New York, does that mean when your food actually comes, it just keeps going and never actually stops and picks you up?
You have to wave down your food, yeah.
Maybe we're different. This is a cultural divide, I reckon, because you guys have TVs in a lot of the restaurants that I've been to in the States, and the food tastes great, but the dining experience is awful because you've got this tech in your face, and I want my dining experience like Vesuvios. I want to sit there and enjoy the social company of the people that I've got. I don't want to have a tab that says I could check Twitter if I want to. And any restaurant that wants to care about me leaving 7 minutes earlier can fear not, because I'll be leaving far earlier than that. I think this is awful.
You're definitely. We need to take you to some other restaurants because they're not all like that. But I know what you're talking about, and Applebee's is definitely one of them. The one thing that I do find positive about this story is the idea of not having to wait around for somebody to bring you your check at the end, which I know that's supposed to be a good dining experience. You're not supposed to feel rushed, and I get that. But sometimes I feel like they don't want to take my money. They take so long because they get distracted or lost or I don't know what.
And that's a very American thing, too. I mean, this is like,
yes,
I think that's specific to, this would work very well in an American chain.
So the ability to just pay when I'm done and leave, I like that.
Yeah.
I look at this and, like, if you're antisocial like I am and you end up in an Applebee's, you're like, fine, I can just order it here. The weird thing I'm having with this whole story is this idea that it'll increase tips. When do you see the waitstaff? When they bring you the food and they run away?
Pretty much.
Like, so when exactly are you interacting with somebody where you're like, I really want to tip this tablet 20%. It took my order really well. Like, I don't get, like, how that will increase anything.
You're cheap.
Well, but I think more and more,
food.
it's not really about service. It's like you tip 15%, and if you're, I don't know, feeling super generous, maybe there's a little bit more, and you're not, I mean, are people really tipping things like 7%?
I doubt it, but I'm just saying, like, what exactly is happening? If it's going to come by, like, on a conveyor belt or something in, like, 10 more years, it just
then
seems...
you wouldn't tip, no.
Well, this is what I'm saying. Like, when did we cross this line? I think it's a little silly. I've seen tablets in fancy restaurants. It's just the wine menu with an iPad 1. Low resolution, how terrible! But it's really fancy, right? That's the kind of it was a high level restaurant experience, and now it's going to be basically like a little jukebox on the side of the diner. It seems like it'd be fine for places like Applebee's, but I
Have you ever worked as a waiter? I'm just curious.
Of course not.
Okay, I'm just curious.
I was a receptionist. That was the last time I had to deal with people, Tom.
Yeah, people. Yeah. Believe me, overrated. All right, let's take a quick break and wait, no, actually, it's time for our randomizer.
Let's take a quick break for the randomizer.
Let's take because Sarah, I assume you'll be very excited that the audience agrees with you, and 45% of them voted for Anchorman News Team recounting the year in Yahoo searches.
That's
Yahoo
right.
does this every year. They put out their big searches, but this year they got Ron Burgundy to explain them to us.
They got Ron Burgundy?
A yacht full of Yahoos. Yeah. And there's our little friend, the blinking red recording light. Hello, friend. You look very chipper today. Here we go. Greetings, planet Earth. I'm Ron Burgundy, and welcome to the Yahoo Year in Review 2013. It's been a fun one, hasn't it? So much has happened. It's hard to keep track of it all. To help me, Yahoo has scoured the internet. Am I saying that right?
He goes on to talk about twerking and Justin Bieber.
Yeah.
Brian Fantana.
Now, you guys are like sitting there acting like this is not the most amazing thing. Anchorman lives.
Oh, no.
Come on.
I know. I
This is a
understand
real
that.
thing
There-
that
there's,
happened.
there's a sequel and all that stuff coming up. I'm just concerned about Yahoo's strategy. I hope Marissa Meyer did not pay a lot for this.
Are you kidding me? This is the best thing
I
Marissa
would-
Meyer has ever done in her life.
We were just talking about the other day how Amazon has this great PR stunt by having drones. This is another stunt for Amazon, not Amazon, Anchorman 2, which is coming out. So it's like, I hope she got a deal for this. That's all.
No.
Here we go. I continue to be cheap.
How dare you? Anchorman, and it makes everything better.
HTC got Iron Man, right? And, and a
That's
lot
not-
of people saw that as being like desperate. Why is this no different?
Because it's Will Ferrell.
Because it's Anchorman, Ron Burgundy, the funniest movie made. You guys, don't
I'm saying it was good. I realized I've been
enjoyable.
the
I think you have
minority.
to watch
This
it
was
like
fun, but
1,400 times.
That's why I'm going to watch that Yahoo video 1,400 times.
And then it really,
Oh, yeah,
I mean, it's a very good movie. Very funny. I don't know. I don't even know you people.
I immediately regret this decision. Yeah.
I just got an image of Marissa Meyer disciplining her kids when they're in. So look, I had you. I could have booked wrong Burgundy again.
You're right. Now behave. All right, let's take a break and thank our other sponsor, Ring Central. You probably know this, but a few of you may not. When we built the studio, we needed a phone system. We needed desk phones because the Twit Studio has desks. You need phones at them. You need conference room phones. But we didn't want to do a PBX system. We wanted to do something better. And Russell, our famous IT guy, suggested a cloud-based phone system through Ring Central. No brainer. We love Ring Central. No startup costs, no PBX hardware to install or maintain. Ring Central allows us to easily customize all of our call handling. You can get your voicemail right there in your email. You can get fax messages on your smartphones for those people who still insist on sending you faxes and you know they're out there. Ring Central will also give you your own auto receptionist. Greet your callers, announce employees and department extensions. If you're getting calls after hours, Ring Central will route them to your smartphone if you need to. Or to your phone service center if you don't want to take it, or to voicemail. Have clients on hold and you can type a message in real time and send it to them saying, hey, I'm sorry to keep you waiting. It'll just be another couple of minutes. Ring Central offers all-inclusive pricing as low as $20 a month per user, and you can start right now with a 30-day risk-free trial. They have a special offer for our listeners, too. When you buy one desk phone, get a second phone free up to 20 phones. So call this number designated for our listeners, 800-543-9980. That's 800-543-9980. Once again, 800-543-9980. Or you can also go to ringcentral.com and use promo code TWIT. That's ringcentral.com, promo code TWIT. And we thank Ring Central for their support of Tech News Today. What is incoming? I bet it's an email. Might even be a voicemail.
Incoming message.
Actually, it is a voicemail from Brian in Nebraska. He has an anecdotal explanation of when teens use Twitter over Snapchat. I fear, Brian.
We're talking about the different social networking services and how teens and younger people use them. I have a near 18-year-old, and you're saying maybe Snapchat or Twitter, completely different services, at least in my house. Snapchat is texting with pictures, and that's completely what it is. When you want to share with a bigger group, it's some Twitter, moving a lot to Instagram, but then when you have something you want to be proud of, that you want parents and other old people to see, then you post it on Facebook where you get the biggest bang for your buck. So anyway, kind of different, but that's the way it's rolling in my house. Thanks. Love the show.
I like you use Facebook if you want the old people to see, like your report card or something. I don't know.
It's like the fridge.
Why is it so hard to like? Snapchat is it's just like a difficult thing for a lot of people to get their heads around. I mean, it's totally different than Twitter. Very different than Twitter.
But he totally nailed it. What I have used Snapchat for is video instant messaging. And that's what people use it for me. I get messages from people like, oh, it's a horrible day at work, or, you know, I'm headed out to the clubs. Actually, I never get that.
Who sent you that?
Which
I've heard tell that people get that.
By the way, I never get snaps from you, Tom, so I don't know who you're snapping, but it's not me. And now
I got some from you when you were on your trip.
Exactly. That's when reciprocation is.
I know.
Good,
I haven't sent one to anybody.
Gotta snap
in a while.
me.
Not just you.
Snaps
All
didn't
right.
happen.
I will snap at you all soon.
Snap me.
Do we have an
Okay.
email?
Yeah, it's from Slim Jim. I mean, Justin. So he said, hey, AT&T team, I was on the bus today in Philadelphia when I saw a Microsoft Surface ad. It had the word honestly in all caps, taking up a third of the banner. A light bulb went off in my head. The Scroogle campaign isn't some side bet. Microsoft is intentionally placing itself as the honest company. I've seen the TV ads, but they don't harp as heavily on the subject as the print and billboard ads do. I suppose I understand the strategy, but the print ads come off as, honestly, we don't suck. We swear. A little weak, if you ask me. It's an interesting idea, Justin, that Microsoft positioning itself as the company you can trust. Do you buy that?
I think there is nothing a greater obstacle to Microsoft than its own ability to shoot itself in the foot with advertising. At the moment, the Lumia phones in the UK are doing great guns. In Europe, they're up to a 12% market share with Windows 8-based phones. People are using it and liking it, and it's great, but they will absolutely completely mess things up by going through their old routine of advertising. They're awful at it. I don't know who they employ, but it's bloody rubbish.
Sorry, I was busy sending a Snapchat.
Ooh.
I agree.
Of what?
Well, is that what that noise was?
Out.
It's Tom snapping in a Z formation.
I got a snap from Tom Merritt. Ace Detect on Snapchat.
Don't show it. It's anonymous.
I'm not showing anybody. It's just for me.
It's just a picture of the screen.
That sounds so wrong.
Very cool.
Which bit of him did he send you?
It was just a
monitor in front of me.
Picture of a laptop. Wasn't anything good.
It wasn't. Sorry.
But good first effort. That was fun.
Thank you.
Wow, a laptop picture.
First
effort to me.
Pretty close. All right, you and Rankin save us from ourselves. Thank you for being here. We appreciate it. Tell folks about British Tech Network. You've got a great thing going on over there.
Yeah, we got BritishTechNetwork.com. We've got a pile of shows that we do. We don't hold ourselves up as huge tech pundits. We're just more like mates down the pub having a chat. And there's groups of people get together for Max Show, Big Show, VIP shows, one that's very inappropriate podcast. That's what it stands for. There's no bleeping in that. And we just enjoy tech, and it's great. Love it to bits. If you want to come and have a listen, Thursday night is Big Show usually, but we've been doing that on Friday just lately because of work commitments for me. And the Mac Show's on at 3:30 every Friday. That never really misses. So come and have a listen. We've got the Gamer Show as well. It's fantastic. And Media Show. There's loads of shows.
BritishTechNetwork.com. I think I'm due to be on the Big Show Thursday, December 19th.
Yes, you're here for the Christmas show, dear.
I'm very excited.
The Christmas quiz.
I'll wear a Santa hat. I promise.
Do it.
All right.
I'll take a photo.
It's Father Christmas over there.
Sarah.
I'll Snapchat it to everyone, too. Hey, folks, speaking of holiday shows coming up, our open mic submissions show, we did one of these back in the summer, and we usually do one every year in December. We're doing it again. So if you would like to be on our open mic show, we're going to have about 3 of the listening audience on here. Send us an email, tnt@twit.tv, subject line open mic. Those are your instructions. Please follow those if you would like to be considered. The deadline for submission is Wednesday, December 11th. The show will record on Friday, December 13th at 2 p.m. Pacific for about an hour. So you'll need to be available at that time to be chosen. And otherwise, just tell us, why we should pick you among the various people. I obviously won't be able to pick everyone. Most of you will not be picked. But if you are interested, tnt@twit.tv, subject line open mic by Wednesday, December 11th. Don't forget, you can also have a voice in what we cover at our subreddit at technewstoday.reddit.com. You can email us. Our email address is tnt@twit.tv. Give us a call, 260-TNT-SHOW. Leave us a voicemail. And there's lots of ways to subscribe. YouTube.com/technewstoday or our podcast at twit.tv/TNT, where we have our show notes and everything else. We'll be back tomorrow with Lance Ulanoff as our guest. See you then.